Do you think the world can survive what's coming? The finale episode of Stranger Things Season 5 is here, and nothing will ever be the same. The abyss is awake, darkness is spreading faster than ever, and the boundaries between worlds are about to collapse. They hope to defeat Henry, collapse the exotic matter, and finally close the shadow that has haunted Hawkins for decades. In this video, we're diving deep into everything happening in the finale episode, the final battles, shocking twists, hidden secrets, and the moments that will leave fans speechless. Before we jump in, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss a breakdown, theory, or prediction for Stranger Things. The final showdown has begun. Let's dive into the chaos. One of the biggest conversations happening online right now isn't about the monsters, the battles, or even the finale itself. It's about the missing scenes. Fans everywhere are pointing out moments from trailers, leaks, behind-the-scenes clips, and early previews that are completely gone from the final cut. And the theory that's taking over the internet: those scenes aren't missing by accident. Vecna erased them. People aren't just talking about deleted footage. They're talking about characters experiencing wrong memories, blank spots, and events that don't line up with what we saw earlier in the season. Entire conversations vanish, reactions change, details shift. It feels like the show is glitching. Now, but the leading theory says it's not a glitch at all. According to fans, this is intentional storytelling. Vecna isn't just attacking bodies anymore, he's attacking memory. The idea is simple but terrifying. When Vecna gets close enough to a person's mind, he can remove scenes from their memory the same way editors remove scenes from an episode. And as the finale approaches, people think he's been doing this constantly, especially to Will, Eleven, and Max. On Reddit, TikTok, and forums, fans point out that characters sometimes react to things that we, the audience, never saw. They respond to conversations that never happened on screen. They reference moments that don't exist anymore. It's not continuity errors, it's narrative corruption. And if the theory is correct, the missing scenes aren't gone, they're stolen. Vecna is rewriting what the characters remember, deleting moments that made them stronger, changing details to weaken their connection, and blurring the lines between what actually happened and what he wants them to believe. Why? Because memories are their greatest weapon, and he's removing them piece by piece. As the finale begins, this theory suggests we'll see the truth. Characters suddenly realize gaps in their past. Entire events feel wrong. Will gets flashes of things he can't explain. Eleven feels like she lived scenes that were never shown. Max senses pieces of herself missing, like someone cut frames out of her life. And that's when the group finally understands the missing scenes are not deleted. They're inside Vecna's mind, locked away, reshaped, twisted, and used to build the final illusion he's preparing in the abyss. If this theory turns out to be true, the finale won't just be a fight for their lives. It'll be a fight for their memories, their identity, and every moment that made them who they are. Over the finale, Season 5 will not ignore Henry Creel. In fact, the entire ending is designed to swing the spotlight back to him, because the Duffer Brothers know the story only lands emotionally if we return to the moment everything began. A lonely kid in an impossible house who saw the world differently. The finale needs his trauma, his anger, his logic, and his twisted worldview, because without that, the fight in Hawkins is just monsters and explosions. With Henry, it becomes personal. The final episodes are expected to dig into the years between his childhood and the moment Brenner found him. Fans believe we'll see the truth behind how Henry discovered the rift, why his mind fractured, and how his ability evolved from simple telekinesis into complete psychological domination. That development matters now more than ever because the characters are dealing with altered memories, disappearing details, and a world sliding out of place. All patterns linked directly to Henry's power. The show is also setting up a final confrontation rooted in identity. Eleven isn't fighting Vecna the monster. She's fighting the boy she once trusted. The finale will highlight that emotional connection. Henry will force her to face scenes from his past, not to gain sympathy, but to trap her in his logic. He wants her to understand why he hates the world, why he believes no one deserves a second chance, and why he sees himself as the only constant in a collapsing reality. Expect the writers to show Henry in a way we haven't seen before. Calm, strategic, fully in control. No long monologues about destiny. No over-the-top theatrics, just a man who knows the group is breaking and uses their doubts as tools. He'll haunt their memories, slip into conversations through hallucinations, and twist their personal regrets until the team questions their own thoughts. This is where the finale becomes dangerous. Henry knows the characters better than they know themselves. He remembers their secrets, he remembers their guilt, and he's ready to weaponize all of it at the exact moment the group tries to come together. For years, fans have argued about one detail that Stranger Things never explained. Why is the Upside Down frozen on November 6, 1983? Not paused, not stuck, frozen. Same date, same hour, same moment Will Byers vanished. When the group finally confronts this in the lead up to the finale, the truth hits harder than anything they've faced. The Upside Down isn't a world that accidentally stopped in time. It's a world locked by someone, and that someone is Henry. The time freeze isn't a glitch. It isn't a natural phenomenon. It's a deliberate design. Henry didn't shape the Upside Down once. He shaped it twice. The first time was when he fell into the dimension and used his abilities to twist the environment around him. But the second time, the one nobody talks about, is far more dangerous. He fixed the world to a single moment, the exact second he gained full control. He treated time like a wall and sealed it shut. Why? Because 1983 is the point where everything became possible for him. Will disappeared. The first tear opened. 11 was still young, untrained, and vulnerable. No one in Hawkins understood what was happening. That date is Henry's perfect moment, so he preserved it, like a spider freezing its web to stop anything from breaking it. The finale reveals the consequence. Every time the group enters the Upside Down, they aren't stepping into an alternate world. They're stepping into Henry's saved game, a locked memory he crafted to maintain control. The vines, the shadows, the Mind Flayer, all of them rely on that frozen structure to exist. Break the time lock and the entire dimension collapses. But there's another layer fans online keep theorizing about. The time freeze doesn't just affect the Upside Down, it's leaking into Hawkins. Small details people ignored suddenly matter. Clocks appearing where they shouldn't. Characters forgetting tiny moments from earlier in the season. Scenes that feel like they reset with slight differences. Conversations that happen twice with different lines. Locations in Hawkins shifting between episodes. These aren't continuity errors, they're symptoms. Henry's time lock is cracking, and the cracks are spreading into the real world. If he succeeds in merging the dimensions during the finale, Hawkins won't just be destroyed, it will be rewritten, not into a monster-filled wasteland, but into Henry's permanent version of reality. A world where time only moves in the direction he chooses. A world held in place by his will. A world that can't escape 1983. The group realizes something terrifying. To save Hawkins, they don't just have to stop Henry, they have to break the time lock. If the time freeze holds, Vecna wins even if his physical body dies. His world stays alive, his rules stay active, his dimension keeps bleeding into theirs. And that's why the final confrontation isn't just a fight, it's a race against a frozen clock. The moment 1983 becomes permanent is the moment the right side up disappears forever. Holly Wheeler has always been part of the background. Quiet, observant, never involved in the larger supernatural events happening around Hawkins. But in Season 5, the final episodes reveal something the fanbase has been analyzing for months. Holly isn't just noticing the supernatural, no, she's reacting to it before anyone else. For the first time, the show frames her not as a kid who's confused, but as someone who can sense the presence of the abyss itself. It starts with tiny moments. Holly pausing mid-step, Holly staring at corners that look empty, Holly turning her head before a shadow moves. The other characters assume she's scared or overwhelmed, but she's not scared. She's tracking something the others can't see. The abyss has a frequency, a pulse, a rhythm that only certain minds can detect. 11 can sense it using power. Will feels it through his connection to the Mind Flayer. Holly senses it naturally, without force, without training, without knowing what she's doing. She's attuned to the distortion in the air, footsteps that don't exist, temperatures that drop for a second then vanish, walls that stretch for a fraction of a moment. Her mind picks all of it up instantly, not as a power, not as a curse, as instinct. And the closer the finale gets, the more obvious it becomes. Holly is responding to the abyss expanding. While the others focus on Henry, portals, and the mission, Holly becomes the early warning system none of them realize they have. When the exotic matter starts collapsing inward, Holly feels the pressure before the ground shakes. When the shadows gather near the Wheeler house, Holly looks at the exact spot seconds before it appears. When Henry tries to blur memories around Hawkins, Holly is the only character whose perception cuts through the manipulation. She's the smallest person in the story, but the one with the clearest view of what's creeping toward them. The internet has already pointed out the symbolism. Holly is the youngest Wheeler, untouched by the trauma, uncorrupted by the past, and too young for Henry to influence directly. Her mind is clean, untouched, unscarred. That makes her the opposite of what Henry feeds on. And because she isn't shaped by fear, guilt, or regret, she becomes the one mind Henry can't enter or twist. This is why she becomes so important in the finale. Inside the Abyss, perception becomes a weapon. Henry uses memories, illusions, and false timelines to trap the group and force them into repeating loops. Holly breaks those loops from the outside. She senses the distortion before it locks into place, giving the characters just enough time to push forward instead of falling into Henry's mental traps. The shocking part is that Holly never understands what she's doing. She's too young to realize her instincts are saving people, but the audience understands. They know she's acting like a compass pointing toward the truth, guiding the story through a dimension built on confusion. And that's why Holly becomes one of the emotional anchors of the finale. She represents clarity at a time when the world is collapsing. She's the character untouched by Henry's influence. She's the one mind he cannot weaponize. And in a story built on illusions, trauma, and manipulation, Holly stands out as the quiet force that keeps the group grounded in reality while they fight inside a world designed to erase it. The group's journey finally leads them to the Abyss, the place where all darkness begins, where Henry's mind and the Mind Flayer converge, and where reality itself is weakest. Unlike the Upside Down, the Abyss isn't just a shadow of Hawkins. It's older, deeper, and alive. Every step inside feels like the world itself is holding its breath, waiting to consume anyone who isn't careful. Entering the Abyss isn't like walking into a room. Time bends, gravity shifts, memory warps, shadows move like sentient creatures, and the air feels thick with intention. The characters immediately sense it. This is a place where Henry is God, where the Mind Flayer acts as his enforcer, and where their past failures come alive to confront them. Every fear, every regret, every unresolved moment is amplified. The Abyss doesn't just punish bodies, it punishes minds. The team has no room for hesitation. 11 must locate the core of Henry's consciousness, the exact point where the exotic matter binds the Upside Down to reality. Will, Max, and Holly provide support, but they are constantly tested. Tendrils of darkness attempt to pull them apart, not physically, but by targeting their memories, twisting them, and making them question what is real. Every illusion Henry creates is designed to make them fail without ever touching them. Henry himself is fully aware of their arrival. He doesn't rush them. Instead, he manipulates the space, reshaping walls, doors, and corridors at will. The characters are forced to navigate a labyrinth that bends with their thoughts, confront their deepest fears, and survive attacks that aren't entirely physical. The Mind Flayer lurks, more terrifying than ever, constantly probing for a weakness, a crack in their unity. Its presence reminds them that the Abyss is not just a battlefield, it's a living extension of Henry's mind. Every move matters. One wrong step, one lapse in trust, and the Abyss could consume them all. They rely on each other not just for strength, but for sanity. 11's ability to channel her power is only effective because Will, Max, and Holly stabilize the rest of the group. Every connection between them becomes a lifeline, a tether pulling them back from the brink when Henry tries to isolate them, forcing them to relive personal trauma. The confrontation reaches its peak at the exotic matter's core. This is where time, space, and consciousness collide. 11 must confront Henry directly, fighting not just his psychic attacks but the echoes of his past, the full weight of the Abyss, and the memories he has manipulated to control the world. Every character's choices in this moment determine not only their survival, but whether Hawkins, the Upside Down, and the Right Side Up reality will endure. The final battle in the Abyss isn't about explosions or monsters. It's a mental war, an emotional war, and a test of trust. The Abyss pushes them to the edge, but it also forces them to confront everything they've learned about themselves and each other. Only by combining courage, strategy, and their unbreakable bonds can they hope to defeat Henry, collapse the exotic matter, and finally close the shadow that has haunted Hawkins for decades. Henry Creel, the mastermind behind every nightmare Hawkins has faced, has always seemed untouchable. Every move he made, every plan he executed was precise, calculated, and terrifyingly effective. He didn't just create monsters, he controlled minds, warped reality, and spread fear in ways that no one could escape. To the world, he was unstoppable. To those trapped in his web, he was omnipotent. But in the finale, the cracks in Henry's invincible armor start to show. His ultimate weakness isn't a weapon, a trap, or even a specific person. It's something far deeper, far more human. Henry's power has always depended on control. Control over minds, over time, over the abyss itself. Every piece of fear he instilled, every shadow he commanded, every vessel he manipulated fed his sense of dominance. And yet, that control is fragile. It only exists as long as no one challenges it, as long as the people around him remain isolated, terrified, or under his influence. The climax of the finale reveals that Henry's real vulnerability is connection. He thrives in fear, but when someone resists, when bonds and trust push back against his influence, his carefully built fortress begins to crumble. In the abyss, his psychological hold starts to falter under pressure. Memories he buried, regrets he ignored, and the emotions he refused to confront all rise to the surface, weakening the very foundation of his power. The man who seemed invincible is suddenly exposed as profoundly human, with fears, attachments, and insecurities that no darkness can completely hide. Henry's downfall isn't caused by brute force or a magical weapon. It's caused by the persistence of those he underestimated. The people he thought he had destroyed, the ones he labeled weak, become the source of his undoing. Every act of courage, every moment of trust, every unbreakable bond chips away at his control. In the finale, it becomes painfully clear that his greatest fear isn't losing the battle, but losing the illusion of control over others. The final confrontation turns his own obsession against him. Every manipulation, every psychological trick, every plan that relied on fear and submission begins to collapse. The exotic matter, the abyss, and the Mind Flayer are all extensions of his need for dominance. And when those extensions are challenged collectively, his power becomes unstable. What was once a fortress of terror becomes a prison of his own making, a labyrinth where his failures, regrets, and vulnerabilities are trapped with him. Ultimately, Henry's final weakness is the thing he never saw coming: the strength of connection, loyalty, and courage. He underestimated the bonds between those he thought he had broken, the resilience of minds and hearts united against him. His downfall is not just a victory for Hawkins, it's a testament to the idea that even the darkest forces can be defeated when unity, bravery, and humanity are stronger than fear. The finale doesn't just resolve the battle against Henry or the collapse of the abyss. It redefines everything about Hawkins and the world the characters have fought to protect. The true ending is less about who dies in a fight and more about who endures, who carries the weight of the past, and who steps into a world that will never be the same. By the end, not everyone makes it. Some characters pay the ultimate price, not because of lack of power or courage, but because the stakes demand it. Every loss is precise, emotional, and leaves ripples through the survivors' lives. Friends lost, futures rewritten, and pieces of the world shattered beyond repair. But these sacrifices are never meaningless. They are what allow the others to survive and reshape reality. Eleven, Will, Max, and Holly emerge changed. Eleven's powers are tested to the limit, and she discovers that her true strength lies not in raw force, but in her ability to connect, to trust, and to fight alongside others. Will finally steps into a role that turns his past trauma into purpose. Max, still haunted by the abyss, becomes the emotional anchor, the reminder that love and care can cut through the darkest of manipulations. Holly, the youngest and seemingly least powerful, proves that intuition and clarity can be as decisive as any superpower. The Upside Down itself, once frozen in time, collapses. Exotic matter breaks, portals close. The Mind Flayer and Henry's consciousness are no longer threats, but the world they return to isn't untouched. Hawkins is scarred, buildings are damaged, and reality carries the faint residue of what existed in the abyss. Time no longer follows Henry's frozen schedule, but the echoes remain. Subtle distortions, flickers of memory, and reminders of the darkness that once ruled. Survivors must decide what to do with the knowledge of the abyss. Some, like Eleven and Will, take it as a warning. The universe contains forces beyond comprehension, and human life is fragile. Others, like Max and Holly, see hope that the world can rebuild, that people people can heal, and that innocence can survive even after facing unimaginable horror. These moments aren't flashy, they're quiet, weighty, and heartbreaking, giving the finale its emotional depth. The true ending is a balance of loss and hope. It honors those who fought, those who fell, and those who carried the fight forward. It confirms that Hawkins and the people who call it home will never be the same, but it also confirms something vital. The bonds forged through terror, struggle, and love are what endure when the darkness is gone. In the final shot, the world isn't perfect. The scars are visible, but the characters who survive carry both memory and responsibility, ready to face whatever comes next in Hawkins or beyond. And while the abyss is closed, the story leaves a lingering question that even when evil is defeated, the impact of fear, trauma, and courage remains, shaping the world forever. Season 5 finale. We've explored the abyss, Henry's mind, the Mind Flayer's terrifying return, Holly's unexpected power, and the ultimate fates of every character who fought to protect Hawkins. Every choice, every sacrifice, and every moment of courage shaped the ending we've all been waiting for. The finale isn't just about defeating a villain, it's about confronting trauma, trusting in your friends, and understanding that even in the darkest moments, hope and connection can carry you through. Hawkins may never be the same, but the people who survived will carry the lessons, scars, and memories forward, ready for whatever comes next. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to stay up to date on all Stranger Things theories, breakdowns, and episode analyses, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. Drop a comment below with your predictions. Who surprised you in the finale? Who do you think will continue shaping Hawkins' future? And what moments hit you the hardest? I want to read every theory and reaction. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Stranger Things breakdown, where we'll continue to uncover every secret, theory, and twist in Hawkins.